We continue our spirit retreat today in the form of reading our next paragraph from our continuous reading from Evangelii, Gaudium, the joy of the gospel. No to spiritual worldliness. Article 93. Spiritual worldliness, which hides behind the appearance of piety and even love for the church, consists in seeking not the Lord's glory, but human glory and personal well-being. It is what the Lord reprimanded the Pharisees for. How can you believe, who receive glory from one another, and do not seek the glory that comes from the Holy One of God? How can you believe, who receive glory from one another, and do not seek the glory that comes from the one only God? It is a subtle way of seeking one's own interest, not those of Jesus Christ. It takes on many forms, spending on the kinds of persons and groups into which it steeps. Since it is based on carefully cultivated appearances, it is not linked to outward sin. From without, everything appears as it should be. But if it were to seep into the church, it would be infinitely more disastrous than any other worldliness, which is simply moral. This worldliness can be fueled in two deeply interrelated ways. One is the attraction of Gnosticism, a purely subjective faith whose only interest is a certain experience or a set of ideas and bits of information which are meant to console or enlighten, but which ultimately keeps one imprisoned in his or her own thoughts and feelings. The other is the self-absorbed Promethean neo-Pelagianism of those who ultimately trust only in their own powers and feel superior to others because they observe certain rules or remain intransigently faithful to a particular Catholic style from the past. A supposed soundness of doctrine or discipline leads instead to a narcissistic and authoritarian elitism, whereby instead of opening the door to grace, one exhausts his or her energies in inspecting and verifying. In neither case is one really concerned about Jesus or others. These are manifestations of an anthropocentric immanentism. It is impossible to think that a genuine evangelizing thrust could emerge from these adulterated forms of Christianity. Here ends our reading.